Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm finally back with another homeschooling one-on-one video in which I'm going to be answering some of your questions. I know it's been a long time since I've gotten around to this. I've been super busy, and on top of that, I've been making more question than narrative videos lately. But since I did start this as a homeschooling channel, I do want to keep adding homeschooling content. And the questions that I'm going to be answering today are really great questions, and I'm only too happy to share my answers with you, so let's get started. The questions I'm going to be tackling today are all from Dre7673, and they are: how do you choose curriculum? What are your favorite books on education or philosophies? Favorite homeschool podcast? And I'm going to add in with that homeschool channels and blogs. And also, who are your mentors? All very good questions. Okay, so the first question is, how do you choose curriculum? How I choose curriculum now is very different from how I chose curriculum when I first started. When I first started homeschooling, I actually just searched homeschool curriculum. But I can't say that that really ended up badly, because that is how I found Konos, which I still use to this day. I also, in the beginning, or maybe in the middle years of my homeschooling, I have been doing it for 15 years now. In the middle years, I also found a lot of curriculum on blogs. I would wake up every morning and I had some specific blogs that I would read every single morning. So I always took their opinion very seriously, and a lot of it ended up working out for me. A lot of it ended up not working out for me, but blogs were another place. I didn't really watch homeschool reviews on YouTube. I was more of someone who just read blogs. I also got word of mouth, just from other homeschool moms that I happened to meet. Now, though, in my 15th year, I kind of just know what it is that my children want, and I know specifically what I'm looking for. So I will actually search the specific things that I'm looking for. To be quite honest with you, we've been doing this for so long that we found our groove, we found our niche, and we know specifically what it is that works. And so at this point in time, we're just using mainly the same things every year, because if it's working, we're just going to keep using it. I think even more important than how you choose your curriculum is that you allow yourself to stop using a curriculum if it's not working for you, though. That is super important. I know that it can be a huge investment of money, which is a reason that I never really went all in and spent hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of dollars on a curriculum. But it also helps that I don't use textbooks, because I think that textbooks are extremely dry. They're really not helpful, in my opinion, especially in the way that my children learn. So textbooks tend to be the most expensive homeschool curriculum, and since we don't use them, we really do save a lot on expenses that way. But really, that's how we choose our homeschool curriculum nowadays, is just from experience and specifically knowing what it is that we're looking for. The second question is, what are my favorite books on education and philosophy? Well, you'll find that I have two authors that have written all of my favorite books on education and philosophy. The first is John Taylor Gatto, and my favorite book on education is The Underground History of American Education. Once I read that, the way that I viewed public education completely changed. I wasn't a huge fan of it at the point that I read it, but having the background on public education that I do now, Lord willing, I will never send my children back into a public school setting, ever. And it is because of what I learned in this book and from other books, but mainly this book. I highly recommend that you read it. Another of his books that I really love is Dumbing Us Down: The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling. I actually did a video series on that, so I will leave a link in the description box to that. And I actually did a video that was kind of based on the underground history of American education, so I'll leave that video in the description box also, that link. And another book of his that I really enjoyed was Weapons of Mass Instruction: A School Teacher's Journey Through the Dark World of Compulsory Schooling. And I'm sure you get the gist of what all of his books were about. John Holt is the other author who really inspired me. John Holt wrote a book called Learning All the Time, which completely changed the way I look at learning. I always viewed what learning looks like from a school lens. I thought that everything had to fit in a box of how schools do things. And learning all the time helped me to see that there is learning to be found in everything. And very often, the learning that they do in school is not as effective as the natural learning that a child does. I highly recommend that for any homeschooling parent, but especially if you have younger children. 100% I do recommend that. Another one by John Holt is Teach Your Own, the John Holt book of homeschooling. John Holt is actually considered the father of unschooling. Not unschooling as we think of it today, which basically means living as if school doesn't exist, which I'm sure he would have supported that as well. But he meant the word unschooling basically as your children just don't go to school. So unschooling and homeschooling at that point in time, which was around the 80s when he wrote these books, they would have been synonymous. Now, as for my mentor, I'm going to go right into my mentor next, because I didn't have any specific personal mentors that I knew in real life. So the only mentor that I really could say is John Taylor Gatto, the writer of The Underground History of American Education, Dumbing Us Down, and Weapons of Mass Instruction. No, I never met him, but his books made such a huge impact on my life. I saw how much he absolutely adored children. He actually was a school teacher, and he won the New York City and New York State Teacher of the Year awards multiple times, and he ended up writing an editorial, I believe it was in the New York Times, resigning from his position as a teacher because he said that he was no longer willing to hurt children. So John Taylor Gatto, huge mentor. When I found out a few years ago that he passed away, I cried as if he were a member of my family. So I think that puts him in the mentor category for sure. And the next one, is this the last one already? It is. The next one and the last one is what are my favorite homeschool podcasts? And I added channels and homeschool blogs. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't listen to a single homeschool podcast. Not because they're not good. I can't say they're not good. I've never listened to any. I'm not a podcast person. I need to have something visual. The only podcast that I listen to occasionally is Blurry Creatures, and that has absolutely nothing at all to do with homeschooling. So yeah, and even when I listen to Blurry Creatures, I don't even just listen to it. I have to watch it on their YouTube channel. So podcasts really just aren't a thing for me. Not because I don't think that there are good content creators out there, but just because I'm a visual person. As for my favorite homeschool channels, I'm going to admit that I don't watch homeschooling channels on YouTube. I used to. Years ago, I was watching specifically Tina Robertson. There are like flies in here because my children had the front door open and it's driving me crazy. Anyway, I never watched any of those super flashy, super popular homeschool mom channels. Was never really interested in the aesthetics of it or in the popularity. I wanted sincerity. I wanted realness. So when I was watching homeschool channels, again, this was years ago, I would watch Tina Robertson, who had some really great videos on lap booking, how to do that. That was actually how I found her channel. And I believe that I used to blog for iHomeschool Network, and I believe that she did too at the time. And another one was Jamie Erickson. She had a homeschool channel. She might still. I think she has a podcast now. And she used to blog. Again, I don't know if she does anymore. The Unlikely Homeschooler. And she had some great videos on no booking. So that was how I found her channel. And again, she also used to write through iHomeschool Network. So those were the two they were really basically the only two homeschooling channels that I ever watched, and that was years ago. I might have watched Christy Clover sometimes too, more for organization things, and Erica Art. I'm not sure if I said her name right. I'm going to try to find their channels and link them in the description box, but these are all older channels, so I don't even know if they're up to date. I don't watch homeschooling channels now, simply because, first of all, I don't have time. I've barely been watching any homeschool videos at all. But also, I've been doing this for 15 years now. And so in the beginning, they were very helpful for me to get ideas. But now what I see happening is that if I watch other homeschooling channels, I start wanting to integrate what they're doing into our homeschool, and it usually ends up being too much for us. I usually end up it ends up almost looking like school because I'm trying to pull things from these other channels that work great for them, and that's why I want to try them, but it doesn't work for us. So I've learned that I've got to kind of pull back and not let the comparison thing happen and just be happy where I'm at. So at this point, I really don't watch other homeschooling channels. Blogs are pretty much the same way. I mentioned that I used to find the reviews on blogs, and yeah, I used to get up every single morning and read homeschool blogs. My two favorites were Weird Unsocialized Homeschoolers and Simple Homeschooling. And again, I don't read blogs anymore, so I don't even know if they're still blogging, but I'll still try to find links to their blogs. And I don't have time to read blogs anymore. I have so many things going on. And again, I probably wouldn't read homeschooling blogs anymore just because I've been at this for 15 years. And so we found where we need to be. And I don't feel like I need to read this at this point in time. I will add though that I also used to have a homeschooling blog, so it's still up there, and I'll leave a link in the description box because I started out as a homeschool blogger, and I have tons of stuff about homeschooling and about education on my homeschool blog, hundreds and hundreds of posts. So I will leave a link. I don't write on it anymore. All that I really do now is just I'll link to my videos and send those out to my subscribers so they just get that now. I don't write actual posts anymore, but I used to just write homeschool blog posts. So there's tons of them. So yeah, if you would like to read those, they'll be in the description box as well. I closed my book, but I think that was all that I needed to answer. Yeah. And again, it's not that I stopped reading homeschool blogs because I don't think that they're useful. I think that they're very useful if you are, kind of finding that you're in a funk, or if you need ideas, or if you're new and don't really know how to get started. But I think that for a lot of us, there comes a point in time where we're like, okay, I know what I'm doing, so we'll just do what we're doing, and we'll be thankful that the blogs are there for the people who are just getting started out. But anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.